Welcome again to Cottage Talk. I am Russ Goldman. Joining me right now is Ben Lawrence. This is our preview of Fulham's match against Tottenham Hotspur. My three keys to victory and Ben's as well. We'll be sharing that throughout the show. Well, more or less near the end of the show, but we'll be previewing this match. And if you're watching live, thank you for watching live on YouTube, X, and the Cottage Talk Facebook page. But if you want to listen to it, we're exclusive, the podcast version on the Cottage Talk Patreon page. But I am glad anyone that wants to watch live with us, Ben. But before we go on any further, I want to thank you, Ben, for joining me at the last minute to do this show with me.
No problem at all, Russ. It's lovely to be asked to do something like this.
Listen, I'm so happy that you could join me. And listen, if there are supporters that aren't familiar with you, just tell us a little bit about your Fulham story. I always like doing that to people that have joined me on the show.
Well, I started supporting the club in the 70s, obviously till present day. Been around Fulham quite a lot in many aspects, and know a lot of people behind the scenes at Fulham. Obviously, I go down to Fulham quite a lot. I watch the under-18s play as well and the under-16s play. So, yeah, I do have a lot of people there I know in the background at Fulham. And also, I would say that I'm quite well known within people at Fulham when it comes to questions needed to be asked at certain times.
Excellent. Good stuff there, Ben. Listen, since you go down there a lot, you actually got me a little curious. Ask you a couple of questions about, say, the academy teams. I specifically want to ask you about a couple of players. How about Aaron Lopolo-Bai? Do you think he is ready at this point to potentially play with the first team?
Personally, I'd say no. Okay. I think he's a little bit off at the moment. I mean, he is a good player. He plays off the shoulder of the defender very well. He's very quick, but I don't think he's got that in him at the moment to be involved in the first team affairs. Maybe sort of if they introduce him, I would say on a small basis on 10, 15 minutes here and there if they can. But I wouldn't really risk him much after that because at the minute he's still learning and developing with the younger squad, and he's in the under-21 squad, which played obviously the other night.
Right. So what do you make of the Jonah Kusayasari situation? He scored a goal for the under-21s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he played very well. He played an hour for them against Aldershot the other night. Scored a lovely goal. I think he is lacking, obviously, that sort of driving cutting edge that we need in the first team. But I think that comes more with experience. I think it comes more with what he has, around him. But I also think it comes with confidence as well, because that's another thing I think he does look like he's lacking, is that confidence factor. He played the hour and he was up against, seasoned campaigners of Aldershot. There was a couple of older heads there, but he had quite a good game for what he played. But I feel that, again, another player that I feel we could bring into the fold, but not play him on the whole, because last week against Sunderland, the last 10 minutes, we could see that Rail was really drained. And I think if Marco just thought, well, 5 minutes, I'll just put this young lad on, just let him run around for 5 minutes, it could have been something to help out.
Okay, very good there, Ben. One other player I'm curious your views on, because like I said, you've watched the under-21s, under-18s. How about Seth Ridgen? How far away is he? Is he a season or two away at this point?
Definitely. I would say Seth has come on leaps and bounds. I watched Seth at 16s. I've watched him now for the under-18s. He has got so much potential. He really has. I feel that, again, it's another Josh King moment that could happen with Seth, I would say, towards the end of the season maybe, or the start of next season. So he is very good. He's developing very well. He's a player, passing ability is really good. And also he got a very good drive getting forward with the ball. But he does seem his finishing needs working on. But he does try, but I think that will come with time.
Okay, very good. Listen, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on some of the players that you've been seeing in the under-21s and under-18s. I think it's something that I really want to dive a little bit more into, because I think as Fulham grow as a club, they need to bring some of these players in, Ben, to offset, say, some of the big money signings that they will ultimately make, they need youngsters like Josh King and the next group to come through. I'm assuming you would agree with me on that.
100% agree with you, but I mean, obviously, a lot of people ask the question: why is it this young lad straight in the first team? Why isn't people putting development is a massive, massive thing with what goes on here. We have so many players at the moment out on loan at other clubs, and they're still developing, they're still learning. There's like, Luke Harris, he's still a good player,
Luke
but
Harris,
he's just
Luke
not in that.
DeFigueros too.
Again, another great player, but he's not in that bracket yet for can he do Premier League week in, week out.
Right.
They are really good, and I think they are ones that they're nurturing very, very well. But I feel that you can't just throw them all into certain games, and in the Premier League, it can be difficult. And also, the point of fact is, which I do know for a fact, we have a situation at the end of the season. It could be 11th place or 15th place, say, and that could cost Fulham £3 to £4 million. Right. And at the end, you would like to see these youngsters playing the game, but I think Fulham have to look at the financial aspect of it, and that's probably why it balances out, thinking we can't put all these youngsters into every game.
Okay, very interesting. And I see what you're saying on that. You have to balance the business part of it and the football part of it. So you're growing Fulham Football Club, and the results in the near can affect where you are at the end of the season. But I also want them to consider the future, and I think it's important for these players to get involved at some point when they are ready. And I'm glad that you're honest with your assessment on each one of them. It's something that I will continue to follow. So thank you for sharing, Ben. And again, a little bonus for having you come on that we can talk about some of the youngsters. I really like that. All right, my friend, let's get to talking about a huge topic. You and I have talked for months about Fulham, just chatting, right? So I want to focus a little bit of the talk on something that I've been talking obviously a lot about, and that's Marco. So Marco's situation continues to be basically the topic of the season, at least for me, and I think with many Fulham supporters. What's going to happen with the future of Marco Silva? So I find it interesting in this interview that he did with Sky Sports, and I watched it, and I know you watched it as well.
Yeah.
So give me your initial reaction to what he had to share on Sky Sports.
Well, from what he sort of made out was that negotiations have been laid out in front of him, but also there's a bit more than just a contract. It's obviously Fulham have laid out the permutations of what's going to happen in the future, how much money there is available to him. Obviously, he didn't mention that, but it's mentioned it obviously loosely by saying about other parts of the club and what other people have put themselves into. And it's not just about Marco Silva, it is about Fulham, it is about the owners, the CEO, everybody else involved. And they've all collectively spoken with Marco. They've given their view to Marco. And it's now down to him if he agrees or not, basically. That's why I look at it. Because if you have a situation where, okay, you could sign a 3-year contract, but we're not going to give you any money for 3 years, he's going to be sitting there thinking, well, I can't sit there with my hands tied for 3 years. It's an impossible task. So you has to weigh up the pros and cons to it. And I feel that he's in a bit of a situation at the moment where, yes, he would like to sign. He'd like to give a little bit more long term. But I feel that he's also thinking, well, if things go a bit pear-shaped come January and I'm not getting what I want, why have I wasted my time signing a new contract?
No, listen, it's an interesting situation here because he, I think, said a lot of the right things. He's being put on the spot. I think he has been really, I think he did a decent job of saying all the right things. But I'm going to ask a different type of question. Why do you think he did the interview? That's another question that I have. And my thought process is that there's a lot of PR going on right now because of all the stuff that is out there with Marco, with his contract. And as I'm going to bring up, because just so happens Fulham are playing Spurs, and I know I have 2 sources that told me this summer that he was interviewing for the job.
Yep.
So why would you do this interview? Because I think part of this is public relations, PR. You you're trying to get ahead of what is basically coming down the road, because now stuff is being talked about Fulham and Marco's contract left and right. And
Yeah.
I think it should be, Ben. I think it absolutely should be, because for me, and I can't get past this. Listen, I think Marco Silva has been a fantastic manager for Fulham Football Club. I'm not going to deny any of that. But I think this situation, in my opinion, is not good for the club with this uncertainty.
No.
I understand why he is acting like he is. I understand why he's not signing. But in the end, it's not good for the club. It's simply, this uncertainty is not good for the club. And then you have the other question that I always ask. Is he the right manager to take us to Europe? And right now, he's not shown the ability to be flexible, to change, to be able to make in-match adjustments that are beyond like for like. So I have my doubts if he is the long-term solution. But what I saw here from this interview is a PR move from Fulham Football Club to deflect all the stuff that's going on and say, listen, we're talking, everything is okay. You know, the club, me, I'm paraphrasing, it's try to basically take down the pressure off of Marco. That's what I took from it.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you there. I mean, I thought that it could be a smokescreen. It could just be a PR stunt to try and just sweeten the supporters that are getting very disgruntled with what's not happening at the moment, obviously. But the big picture is, when you look at it in August, when the transfer window was open, we weren't linked with many players.
No.
And I think that was to do with the situation of who would want to come, because they don't know what's going to be happening in 6 months' time.
Bingo.
And that's the problem. You get so many players that say, well, I'm not going to turn up if that manager's not going to be there. I want to play with that manager.
That's been my argument, Ben.
So I think there's definitely a bit of a PR gone on with this one. I do feel that there is obviously been negotiations, as we have heard there has been negotiations, but I feel that there is something missing. He either wants to stay or he doesn't want to stay.
Right.
If he does stay, great. Everybody's happy and he's happy. We'll go with it. But there's obviously something in the back of his mind thinking, well, obviously Tottenham at the moment are in a bit of a sticky situation. You've got other big clubs in sticky situations. And if one of them came headhunting for him, I'm pretty sure he might consider going to one of them as well.
Well, that's the part that actually, I think the timing of the interview, the timing of how Fulham are playing, I think is extremely interesting, because like I said, if you follow the situation with Spurs, I will just tell you, and of course Fulham are playing Spurs, and we'll talk about the match in the second half of the show, and I look forward to it, because I think it's a wonderful opportunity for Fulham Football Club to not just get a point, but win this match. Mm-hmm. And I think even so early on, their manager's under pressure. They can tell you to the press that he's not, everything is good. The supporters are already on his back. They don't like the style of play. They have changed a little bit after the loss to PSG, because they saw some intent going forward. But this group of supporters, they will be on top of him. This is a very difficult job, being the manager of Tottenham Hotspur. Extremely difficult, but it's coveted. And and again, this is just my opinion. I think if for some reason Frank goes, Marco could be a manager that could be up for it again. And then we could be dealing with this. So the uncertainty that is going on right now with the contract just adds to all of this. And for me, I like to know I want things done, man. I don't like this cloud hanging over the club. And like I said, I think he's a great manager. Obviously, the Cons want him to stay. They're making a concerted effort. They're all in on Marco Silva. They made that decision based on their words. Yeah. Okay, there's no question about it. So if Marco signs a new contract, even though I think personally I would look in another direction, but if they feel he's the one that can take them long term, I obviously are going to back the club and just get behind it. But this uncertainty, for me, is just crap, Ben, and I think it's causing a lot of problems. However, I will say to you, I think it plays to Fulham's advantage this week because I think Marco has something to prove. And I'm going to be talking
Yeah.
about that right now because I think this match is extremely important to Marco Silva personally. Now, like I said, I personally know I've got a couple of people, a couple of sources that told me he interviewed. So they end up giving it to Frank for whatever reason. They gave it to Frank. And he's, again, in his presser, he was asked about this. I'm paraphrasing. I don't think he wanted to go anywhere near it. He's basically saying, I'm the full manager, and that's what I want to hear. But I'm just telling you, I personally think this match is extremely important to Marco Silva, and I think in a way it'll play to Fulham's advantage, as I just said, because he's going to want to show something to these people. And I think he's going to put out all the stops to prepare Fulham to win this match and show the hierarchy at Tottenham Hotspur. Even though Levy's not there anymore, hey, this is who I am. So do you agree with me that there might be a little extra importance in this match for Marco?
I agree with that because the situations we do know about, obviously what happened earlier before the season started, where we had talks with them. So it's a question of like, well, I can prove something here. I bring in a good side to play Tottenham, and I can show what my skills are, and that's one way of really just honing them in that game. I mean, the importance for Marco really also is his 200th game for Fulham,
right?
And also, looking at the way things have been away from home, I think he wants to try and just prove a bit more for everybody, really, on that one, because we haven't had a very good away record this season, and I feel that Tottenham, they're not been very good at home either. So it could be just something just with the Lewis family watching, other people watching, they could just go, yeah, we might take a punt on him if things do go pear-shaped for us here. So
Right. And that's why, like I said, Marco said all the right things, in my opinion, in this interview, in his presser, saying all the right things. I want to give him a lot of credit on that. But I just don't like the way things are going. Like you said, this should have been settled in the summer. But again, he's done this before. He did this 2 seasons ago.
Yep.
But he had signed, I want to say, in October. The fact that we're now about to enter December and you still have this situation is concerning for me. But I also think, especially this week, like you said, and also the 200th Fulham match in charge, I think this works to Fulham's favor and works to Marco's favor. So I like Fulham's chances, but we'll talk about that coming up next. Let's now talk a little bit about Tottenham Hotspur. You've already talked, Ben, a little bit about their home form, which has been poor, right? It has been. But it's still a team that has a lot of talent, but I think it's a team trying to find its way under Thomas Frank, trying to find the way that they're going to play. They have basically changed things up. I keep hearing and reading that maybe the best formation for them, we'll talk about this coming up, is this 4-2-2-2, 4-2, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That might be the best formation. They played 3 at the back. They're not big fans. I'm talking about the Tottenham supporters of the double pivot with João Palhinha and Bentancur. Talk about João Palhinha coming up next. They've been a mixed bag. They're missing some big names. They're missing players that could really hurt you. Like, again, why am I blanking on Dominic Solanke? I mean, and a couple of others as well. James Madison, I think, has been out. I could be wrong. Yeah. So they're missing. Kovacevic is out. So they're missing key players. But when I look at them right now and I look at Fulham, how different, even though they've added some really good players. I mean, Cottage is a player that I really rate, okay? Xavi Simons, for whatever reason, has not really worked out so far, but he'll probably work out at some point. And then, of course, you add Palhinha into the mix. But I still think in its core, the majority of those players are still there from the team that Fulham really played well against, Nick, last season. What do you make of this team going into this match against Fulham?
Well, what I've seen from the Tottenham side, defensively, they're terrible. They are really poor. Because obviously they're playing at 3s and 4s all the time, and that doesn't balance anybody out. You've got Van der Ven, very good centre half, and then he goes off on a gallivant up the pitch, and it just leaves big gaps behind him all the time. And the two holding mids are just left out all the way through. And this is where I watched it last week against Arsenal, and they would just cut adrift completely, but with better football throughout the second half. You could see that. And a player like Eze was just running rings around their back line. And that is the way that Spurs have been all season. They've won one game at home all season. That was on the opening day. And they've got good players that go forward with the ball. The likes of Brendan Johnson, Matthias Tell, they're good players. But at the end of the day, they're not a unit. They're not a team together. And I think what Thomas Frank is trying to influence with this side is we work together. And there's too many players that want to do their thing in the game. And I always feel that there's, a chance that a team will score against them every game that they played.
Okay, very good. I want to share these comments from co-host on The View from the Hammersmith and Matt Wall. Says, how long do you leave it in his court before moving on? We need to attract players for January. Nobody good will sign for a manager who is leaving. That's interesting. But again, who's going to sign for him? Right. Well, again, he's not signed. So what do you do? Name your manager for that other direction, Russ. Who would you appoint? Well, that's interesting. I'm going to clarify this because I've gone back and forth on this, and I'm probably going to be called out for this, and it's fine. I think next season Fulham should move on from Marco Silva. Okay, that's just my thought, Matt. I would play this out with him, make him show exactly what he is. And again, unless my only fear right now is that he leaves and takes another job, but I don't know who that next manager is. I don't know who it is, but I think at some point they need to move on from Marco Silva. But at this point, doing it in midseason does not make sense for me. So I've actually changed my mind on that, and I should have clarified that. I will change my mind. I am flip-flopping a little bit, but I will tell you that I think it's in Fulham's best interest that Marco stays throughout this season, and then you make that move. And I just don't know who that is. I'm not going to pretend to tell you I know who is going to be the next Areola. I would want someone like that. Who's going to be the next Glasner? That's what they should be looking at. But that's what I would do. The Cons don't want to do that, man. And I think we'll agree on this. The Cons are all in on Marco Silva. They want Marco Silva as long as they can hold on to him. I get that, but I just don't know if Marco Silva can take us to where I want. But I'd be willing to have Marco for the rest of the season, if that answers the question. Your thoughts on all this, Ben?
Well, the way I look at it, he's there at the moment. Work with him for what you got.
Yeah.
I would, again, the way Matt put it there, put ball in Marco's court and say to him, okay, if come January, what do you want and where can we achieve to be with you come the end of the season? And see what his answer is to that. Because if he comes back with, I just want to sign some players, well, that's not an answer to anything. What is good with the players we have? Can they not achieve what we need to achieve under you? And that's where it should be answered to, because you can't just keep saying we're buying all the time. That's not going to answer anything.
Right.
And you can't keep just him sitting there looking disgruntled saying, the last window was terrible. We didn't get anybody I wanted, because it's just going to keep going around in circles.
Right.
You need to bring him down and say, look, at the end of the day, we want to get to here. Can you do it with these players? Yes or no? And that's the first question to ask. After that, say, okay, what do you need and what do you want us to do for you? Can we come to an agreement? If you can't come to an agreement with that, then cut your losses. Because at the end of the day, I do feel that we're at a bit of a time at the moment where Marco's had enough time with us and we're not moving forwards. We're just going up, down, up, down.
Yeah,
down.
we're just staying mid-table, man. And for some, that's fine. And I get that. When I first started following Fulham, I was told time and time again that my ambition didn't match what a Fulham supporter is, meaning that I had to keep it in check. No, Russ, we can't go beyond the top 10. And of course, then we went all the way, I believe, to 7th. But that belief is that, no, this is who we are. And it's great who we are, but we're never going to be beyond that. And I'm sorry, I've I've kept that down. I'm not buying that anymore when I see some of the other clubs. When I see what Nottingham Forest just did, when I see what Crystal Palace have done, and I see the rules are going to continue to change in the Premier League to make things more competitive for clubs the size of Fulham, I'm not going to settle for mid-table mediocrity, Ben. I'm just not going to do it anymore. So I'm going to voice my opinion. But I'm glad that Matt brought this up because, again, we talked about it on the show we did, and like I said, I can appreciate everything that Marco has done, and also say, you know what, can he take us to the next level? If he can show me that he's willing to adapt and change during a match and make changes that aren't like for like, then he could possibly change my mind. But I just see a manager that does what he does, sets them up really nicely, but doesn't really want to change really anything in match that will just change his philosophy. And I think sometimes you really need to do that. And he's not willing to do that. And that's fine. It's just not my cup of tea. But I agree with everyone's sentiment that I think it's in Fulham's best interest that he stays until the end of the season. But again, this is just me. The Cons will continue to want to offer him a new contract. I'd be looking at plan B right now. I'd be planting the seed to try to find the next guy. That's just me. If they want to go ahead with him long term, I will, like I said, even though that's not what I want, if they believe it, I will obviously back what the club does because, one, I don't have any choice, and two, he's been a very good manager for Fulham. So that's kind of where I am on all that, Ben.
Well, one thing that you always do on your show is you do the manager battles. How many times has Marco Silva won that? I mean, that's a question when other managers come in against us, and who wins the coaching battle? And most of the time, it's not Marco Silva.
Right.
And that's where you look at the pros and cons of everything because, as you said, he does like-for-like changes. He may do a change and it may win a game. It may work, but a lot of the times it doesn't. And then other managers are more experienced and they've worked Marco out. They've worked out how the way we play. They've worked out everything else. And as again, it's just you've got to add these things into when you offer in this contract. If you want to keep him on, are we going to be seeing better? Are we going to be producing more? Because I know the Khans want European football. I know
they do.
Because at the end of the day, they have a brand new stand that they want to put into Europe. They're not going to sit there and say, oh, we're happy with 15th place in the Premier League. That's great for us every season. It's not going to benefit. You know, they want to make it a sell point. They can't make a sell point on playing Wolves and Sunderland and teams like that. It's very difficult for them. And of course, it will only sell if you've got a great team on the pitch that's producing the goods.
Right. I'm going to share another comment from Matt. This is an interesting one. Pochettino next season, if Marco goes, but I prefer Marco. What's interesting about Pochettino, he's getting killed here, by the way, in America with the way he's running the U.S. men's national team. But I wouldn't be against pursuing something like that or looking into a Pochettino. But I actually, believe it or not, Ben, I want to try to find. I want to try to do what Bournemouth have done, what Brighton have done. You know what some of these clubs have done. Even someone like Aston Villa, who got Unai Emery. I mean, someone that is really a young manager on the rise. That's what I want to find for Fulham.
I mean, it's easier said than done in one respect, obviously. But
I know.
but we all want that. But I feel that Marco does have good qualities.
Of course he does.
And at the end of the day, he's there. And I say, give him, if he wants something, ask him. Don't just sort of, we give you a 3-year contract, that's it. And he'd be like, oh, that's not really just what I wanted.
Yeah.
Go round things with him and see what he actually is asking for. And then go back and say, look, we can't deal with this, but we can deal with this. If he feels, no, that's not for me. Obviously, Pochettino has worked in the Premier League before. I mean, he wasn't successful really at Chelsea, but he didn't have much chance there.
No.
And at Tottenham, he was, loved by the supporters. And again, it just didn't work out with the owners at that club. So
Right.
that's where, I mean, but you never know that another good manager could turn up come June, July, and say, I'd be willing to throw my hat in the ring to go to Fulham,
Right.
and we could be, quids in. You never know who could be out there, long as it's someone isn't like Arnie Slot at the moment. So
No, no, not right now. No, absolutely not. But again, the reason why I continue to talk about Marco is just because, again, it's not a disrespect to what he has done with Fulham. It's just, can he provide what you just said, Ben? Can he provide European football? Can he do it? It's funny. Steve Reynolds, who was just commenting, had said to me 4 months ago, has he taken us as far as he has? And I kind of come to that conclusion that he has. But like the situation for Fulham right now is to try to make the best of the season. And that's why I've changed my whole thing of replacing him now. But I think that they should really consider who is their manager for next season. That's just how I am. Anyways, we could go on and on about talking about this. Let's move on. One other topic, or a couple more topics about Spurs I want to get to before we go to our 3 keys to victory is this. So if you ever want to have a laugh, go check out on X and just put in the name Paulinho and see some of the talk in regards to João. Now, obviously, Fulham supporters, Ben, we love João Paulinho. We revere João Paulinho. It's probably one of the best players I've seen in my time as a Fulham supporter. That's not a lot of the. You get some of that, some positivity with João when it comes to Tottenham. I would tell you right now, it's about 80 to 90% negative. And what's funny about it, what's ironic about it, is he's brought to Tottenham to help them defensively as a defensive midfielder, and they're bitching about the fact that he doesn't move the ball forward, which we know is not his strength. He is a destroyer, and they don't like the fact that he can't do anything beyond that. But he is one of the best in the world of doing that, and they're bitching about it. I think it's ridiculous. You have a one-of-a-kind, in my opinion, player, and you are ripping him for something that he's not, which is unfair, Ben.
Well, I totally agree with you there. I mean, I think that's disgraceful to sort of any player. They get given what they've got to do on the pitch, and you say to a winger, your job is to get up and down the line and cross the ball over. You're not asking him to score the goals. That's what it's about. João Paulinho is a person that breaks up the play. He's a really, really good player to have in the middle of the pitch.
Absolutely.
I mean, it proved us tenfold when he was with us. He was head and shoulders above anybody else in the league for the amount of tackles won. It just proves that point. That's his job. He's there to break up play. He's not there to, score goals. He's not there to become a playmaker. That is not his job. They've got other players at Tottenham that do that. I mean, I think it's a question of like, Dave feels that he's come from Bayern Munich. He should be the ultimate superstar player. And but when we say about it to Tottenham supporters, they go, yeah, but he was only at Fulham. And
exactly.
That
BS. Okay.
Yeah.
Can I just tell you, that is such BS, because I've watched so much more of João Paulinho than they ever have or know much about him. And the fact that, and again, listen, I can go down the list of players that on social media have been destroyed, all these former Fulham players. I'll start with Clint Dempsey. I'll go to Moussa Dembele. By the way, it took them 2 seasons to really figure out that Moussa Dembele was a great player like we knew. They ripped him. And then, again, the ultimate is Ryan Sessegnon. Ryan Sessegnon, these group of supporters, this delusional group of supporters, I think the most delusional of any supporters in the world of any sport are the Tottenham supporters. I don't care if they're listening to this. I could care less what you think of me. I'm telling you, you are delusional, and you are so delusional that you think that this guy who you have is not an exceptional player, because I know he is, Ben.
I totally agree. Put it this way. I would rather him in our squad now than what we've got.
Hell yes.
So you
Hell
can't turn
yes.
around and say,
Oh,
he's
my
not all
Lord.
that. It's a situation where, as I say, I just feel that they think, well, he used to play for Fulham, so we should be looking better,
Exactly.
And they have
Exactly.
delusions of grandeur. That is the problem with them, and
the
they've had it.
delusions is so high. It's like it's crazy.
But we've had it for years with them. I mean, the amount of years
Oh.
they never won a trophy, the amount of years they haven't been a successful side, and all you heard is we should win a trophy. We should be up there. We should be one of the top teams. It's like there's only so many teams that can win a trophy every season, and unfortunately, you're not good enough. That's the answer. Yeah. And this is the point. They get to a state, and obviously last season they did win a trophy. Now they feel, oh well, we've got to have the best. And if someone's not playing the way we want them to play, we'll just run them down. And that is what I see from them quite a lot.
Yeah. By the way, they have basically run out some really good quality managers because of their negativity. We're talking about Antonio Conte. We're talking about Mauricio Pochettino as well, someone that they loved. They ran him out, by the way. I'm sorry. They put so much pressure that Levy folded, and again, I don't know exactly the entire situation with Pochettino.
Even down to Jose Mourinho.
Again, they've had all of these great managers. How about Nuno? You forget that they had Nuno.
Yeah, and they didn't last very long there with him.
These idiots didn't give Nuno a chance. No. Nuno happens to be a great manager.
Yeah, but he did well for Forest last year. Proved a point.
Okay.
It's another situation that they're just going to have another match. And don't get me wrong, I think Thomas Frank is a good manager. And again, supporters are on his back constantly. And I feel that it's only going to be a question of time when they actually pulled the trigger on him. And then they realise, again, they've lost another good manager.
That's right. And the funny thing about it is, and this goes back to Marco, and I said this over the summer, Ben, if you're Marco Silva, why the hell would you want to take this job? Yeah. I'm going to use these three letters, okay? And it's not for the NFL National Football League, okay? It's also something that we talk about when you're a player, but I'll use this for someone that becomes the manager of Tottenham Hotspur. NFL actually stands for not for long, okay? Because you're not going to be the manager for long, because they're going to find a way to get rid of you if you're not willing up to their expectations, to the way that they want to be entertained. If they're not entertained, oh my Lord, if they're not entertained, forget about it.
I see the job as a poison chalice.
It is.
It's a total poison chalice. You walk into the job, they give you the money to buy the players. Oh, you're not being successful, you're out the door. And it's like they don't work with people. They don't give them time. They don't want to give them opportunity to, okay, you fall down. Can you get back up again? Well, we're not bothered. Just go out. That's it. Done. And that's not a way to run a football club. It really isn't.
It isn't. That's why, like, that job, I think anyone that takes this job, I'm talking about the Tottenham Hotspur job, needs their head examined, because it really is probably, I wouldn't say it's the most difficult managerial job in the world. I just think it's one that is very difficult to actually succeed, because at some point they're going to get rid of you. If you have a rough patch, they're going to get rid of you. They're going to talk about getting rid of you. No matter how well you've done, they're going to want to get rid of you. And I think that's just not for me, man. Anyways, enough of complaining. I could do 2 hours talking about the Tottenham Hotspur supporters. By the way, just so you know, when I first started following Fulham, and I was doing this blog, this is how I was introduced to Tottenham Hotspurs, that they were the ones all of a sudden attacking me, who was just a newbie at the time, about Fulham and how great Tottenham was. And this is in 2007. They're the same people. They have not changed at all. They are so arrogant and so delusional. Yeah. And I hope they lose every match. I'll just leave it at that. Okay. Let's move on. But let's talk one more topic about Spurs that I think is interesting for this match, because I actually been watching a lot of their podcasts and reading a lot. A lot of decisions for Thomas Frank to make will be the formation and his starting 11, Ben, because they played a couple different formations. And what I've basically been listening is that even though they lost to PSG 5-3, right? they lost 5-3. It was not really. It was that they had played well and that they were more offensively minded, more progressive. Right? They were more attacking minded, and that's what the supporters want. They want a certain style play, so they were happy with that. They will be up in arms if Frank plays a double pivot against Fulham. They will be up in arms. I don't think he's going to do it, but I think a lot that is dictated in this match that we're going to watch on Saturday night will be by the decisions by both managers. And I think Thomas Frank has a lot to do with it, along with I think it's 50-50. It's going to be what he decides to do with this starting 11, the formation he plays, and what Marco does. That's what makes this very fascinating. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I do know for a fact that I think he will play a back four tomorrow night, because obviously we have heard that Romero is out.
Yeah.
And so that takes out the situation of their usual back three. And I think if he brings another player in to play that role, I don't think it will work. So I think it will look more as a straight back four, knowing the fact that Fulham play with two wingers.
Yeah.
And he will want to make sure they're not going to go past all the time. I do feel that he will play Bentancur and Pahina, though. And
you think he's going to go with a double pivot?
I do think he will go try to hold the middle as much as possible, knowing the fact if Fulham play Iwobi and say King or even Smith Rowe in the middle, they would be losing out with just one in the holding. So I think he will look to start off pragmatic and then see how we're going to go into the game and then change it accordingly. I think that probably bring Bentancur off and then go a bit more with Simons or Sarr in that sort of role.
Okay, so I've also heard from, and again, from the podcast that I listen to, that there's a possibility that Archie Gray might play that role, along with, say, someone like Paulinho. Could you see that? And in some ways, I think that, and again, I was remembering back to last season, Ben, because again, I think Archie Gray is a player that could really help Tottenham Hotspur. I think he is a player that's going to be great in future seasons. Really good, promising player. But he's a player that I think if he plays against Fulham, I think you're going to take advantage of him, like they did last season. They took advantage of Archie Gray.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously last season he was thrown into centre half role, which wasn't really for him.
Oh yeah, but that was crazy.
That was stupid. But at the end of the day, again, if you're playing him in a pivoting role, he's more of an attacking player. He'll get lost in the centre alongside Pahina. He will get lost there, and I think that could benefit Fulham in many ways. Yeah, we play on him, and then obviously get past him. You've only got Pahina to really worry about, and that could be a pre-fall for them there. Okay,
very good. All right, Ben, let's finish up the show by going to 3 keys to victory. We'll then talk about our predictions. Here's a goal. We'll go through our starting 11, and then we'll end with our predictions for the match. Let's start with 3 keys to victory. I'll get us going with number 3. And this is going to be interesting because I'm not sure what Marco's going to do with his midfield 3. But I do expect, like you said, João Palhinha to start. And if I'm Fulham, I'm going to say it right now. They have a lot of intel on João. They know the weaknesses of João, and one would be to really put him under pressure early by forcing him to get a yellow card early. So for me, I'm running right at him, and I'm putting pressure on him, whether it's Josh King, Emile Smith-Rowe, or even Iwobi playing that role. I'm attacking João Palhinha. I'm going right at him, and I'm going full force right at him to get him to potentially get a yellow card early. That's my number 3.
No, I totally agree with you there. I mean, he's a player that we know a lot about, and we know where, again, his weaknesses are. But I do feel that the only problem is when we get a player that gets on a yellow card early in the game, we never persist on them. And we've done that quite a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
It's one of them sort of situations where I feel, he's got the yellow. We don't want to really enforce anything else. If he makes the mistake again, that's down to him. You sometimes feel make the mistake. He will make the mistake. And obviously, if you're on a yellow card early, you've got to let players go past you, or you're going to have to try and take them out, and that's the way it's going to be. And I feel that one of the things there was hit them early, get straight into their back line, don't hold back, because at the end of the day, we play our game in our half of the pitch, holding back. They're going to come onto us. You need to play it in their half of the pitch onto them to start the game. Also, it will make them a little bit disgruntled, and also it will start making supporters go against them. And that's one thing. If you want supporters against them, it will make us better.
I totally agree with that, Ben. All right, so I'm going to go on to number 2. I think we're going to agree on number 1, but number 2 is, again, goes to the philosophy recently, or maybe the philosophy always with Thomas Frank. One thing that I've noticed about Thomas Frank is that he likes to press, and I expect Tottenham to want to press Fulham. Now, I could be wrong about that, but my concern goes to the back four. If they're under pressure, they cannot make silly mistakes. This cannot be a West Ham match at the London Stadium last season. A fear of mine is making an error and them taking advantage of it, and the match changes, Ben. So for me, there cannot be any of these defensive errors if they're pressed or just in general.
No, we've had that in the past, especially at Tottenham as well. I mean,
yes, we have actually at Tottenham.
Yeah, when we had Calvin Bassey playing out, really.
I remember that. Yeah.
You know, yeah. I mean, we've had these sort of times before, and it obviously people make mistakes. People are human, you know. But at the end of the day, you don't want it really to happen on a crunch time, and you don't want it to happen to give away something that's going to cost. And I mean, last year's West Ham's game was. Oh, I just want to get it out of my mind, really. But it was terrible. And
that's my fear, by the way. That's my fear.
Yeah. But I don't think we'll be as a problem. But I think that obviously if they come on to us too strong and they really, because I know Thomas Frank does like to press hard, that could influence people to make mistakes. But I think we'll be okay with that. But I do feel that it's going to be something we have to wait and see with.
Okay. Do you have a number 2 that you would like to add, a key to victory for yourself?
Well, the one I would like to do is Marco to hold the right cards at the right time. Okay. Because at the end of the day, I know obviously people said last week he did it right where he brought on Chuck Weezy at the right time and it worked well. But that's just once it's worked well. We would like to see it work well more than once. And the like-for-like changes are one thing, but if it isn't going well, make a change for the benefit of making the change. Don't sit there waiting to 70-odd minutes just to say, well, I've got to pull him off now to bring this person on. It's not, they're not doing it, pull them out. Just pull it. We need to get something on the board at the end of the day, and that's what it's about.
Okay, very good. Okay, well, that's going to lead to my number 1, and it is pretty much the same one almost every week, because I think managers can change games and managers can make things happen how they set their teams up. So for me, Marco has to win the coaching battle against Thomas Frank. If he does not set Fulham up correctly, and as you already mentioned just a few seconds ago, have something ready to go if things aren't going well. Again, I like to use the term plan B, but really with Marco, it's not a plan B. It's usually a like for like, but has to have something ready to go. He has to set Fulham up properly to win this match. Like I said, I think this is an important match for Marco for so many reasons. Like I said, 200th Fulham match in charge, I think is great, but also maybe to stick at the Tottenham Hotspur wouldn't be a bad thing either. So I think he has to pull all the right levers, Ben. That's why that's my number 1.
Yeah, I'll go with that as well. I mean, Marco and Thomas Frank know each other very well. They've been in separate dugouts for a lot of times. And I mean, last season proved it where Marco got over on him a couple of times. And Thomas Frank is one of these guys, he takes defeat well. He's not a manager that goes into a game and loses the game and then blames everybody. He is very gracious with defeats most of the time, unless it's something he feels is wrong. But I feel that what Marco needs to do himself is worry about managing the team.
Okay.
That's my number 1 thing. Don't worry about getting in the fourth official's face over something silly where it's going to start disgruntling people on the pitch. This is a game where you can manage the team, do it right, and then things will go right. You start them. We've seen it before. he gets disgruntled with certain things. It echoes with the players on the pitch. We start losing our head. Then things start going wrong. Just keep it cool. Manage your team. I think that, to me, my number one thing. Just go there with a positive mindset and manage your team.
Okay, excellent. All right. Ben, let's now go to our starting 11, and then you and I can talk about what we think Marco would do. Give me your starting 11 that you would use against Spurs.
Okay, we must obviously the back four. In a way, will probably speak for itself. Obviously, from the last week, you don't really want to make many changes in the back four. I mean, I do love Cuenca. I think he's a really good player, but we've got other big games coming up that we need him involved for. And I feel that we would start with the strong team that kept a clean sheet last week at the back.
Okay.
In midfield, I won't go with two holding midfielders myself. I can't stand that. I mean, it's proved time and time again it hasn't worked.
Nope.
And our last away outing, we had two holding midfielders and it was abysmal. We can't go with that at all. I would stick with Iwobi in the middle as the 8 and maybe play Sanderberg alongside him. And then I would probably give Emil Smith-Rowe instead of Josh King. I know Josh has played outstanding, but I feel that Emil Smith-Rowe is an Arsenal person, and I know how much Tottenham don't like them, and I think that would be something to get right into them when he goes into them and starts playing like he did when he came on last week.
Okay.
Harry Wilson, obviously, and I would go with Chuck Wasey on the left. Just give him a chance.
And Raul up front.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So your starting 11, the one change I would make, I'm going with everything that you said. I would go with Berga, Iwobi. I want Iwobi to stay as the 8, Ben. Mm-hmm. I'm fearful when we talk about what we think Marco's going to do. I don't think that's what he's going to do. I really don't. But this is what you would do. This is what I would do.
Mm-hmm.
As the 10, I would still go with Josh King. Hear me out. I understand why you're going with Emil Smith-Rowe. I actually understand why you're going with Emil Smith-Rowe, because I think that there's a lot of incentive for him personally where he formerly played for Arsenal. I get all that. But I also think it's important to get Josh King to start. I think this is a team that Josh King can do some damage, and I think Josh King can do some damage against Zhao. So for me, I'm going with Josh King. I'm doing Chukwueze on the left, Wilson on the right, and Raul up front. And then I'm thinking of potentially bringing on Emil Smith-Rowe early in the second half as needed. And maybe I don't do what Marco would do. Maybe I would gamble and play them together. And then you got to figure out the configuration. But I would love to see Smith-Rowe and Josh King play together. He's not going to do that. That would mean probably taking off Chukwueze and moving Iwobi wide, but that's what I would do. Now let's talk about what we think Marco's going to do. You know what I think Marco's going to do? He's going to play Bergen, Lukic, and Iwobi. Yep. I think he's going to play Bergen, Lukic, and Iwobi, and I don't think he's going to play Josh King. They're going to start Josh King or Smith-Rowe. I think he'll play Chukwueze and play Wilson. That's what I think he's going to do. What do you think?
I agree with that. I mean, I can see the two holding mids coming back in because it's the way he likes to play away from home, not to lose.
But I think this is a mistake, man. I think this would be a huge mistake.
I totally agree. But I would see him doing it because at the end of the day, he's one of these players. He sets us up not to lose, and it's one of the, I mean, I do like Sasha Lukic, but he is a bit rash at times, and it comes into a game, and if he gets booked early, it does walking a tightrope with him. And I feel that we need to attack the opponent. Right. You can't defend the opponent. You need to attack. Start off with a winning formula. Start off to go and get a goal. Get that goal, then play a defensive mode later in the game to try and hold it. No point in playing attack and then defending, because he would do that, and we know he would do that. He's done that for how many games this season, and it hasn't worked.
Listen, he, in my opinion, is going to do Fulham's version of the double pivot, where I would go completely against that, because I think some of the best defense is, as we would say over here, be more offensive. That actually protects your defense because you're going at your opponent. And I think there's an opportunity to really take it to this opponent. And nothing against João Paulinho, but I'm going after him. And if you're playing Berger and Lukic, you're not going after João Paulinho. You're playing it safe. It goes back to being safe Silva. Will it be safe Silva or will it be a Silva that's going for it? That to me is going to decide. That's why I said, who wins the coaching battle? Will he make this decision, Ben, which I think would be wrong against this opponent? Sorry.
I mean, last week he had to use what he had to use because obviously Lukic was suspended. But the situation of it all is, he favours this role. As someone's put up there stating that the question, Berger and Lukic play, we always lose away. And it's that kind, we can see it happens all the time. We don't want to sit and say, oh, here we go again. It's the same formation as we had a couple of weeks ago. But this is the way Silva puts the team out. He's safe. He wants to make sure we're not going to concede early. He makes sure we're not going, great teams are built from the defence, understandably. But you can't just keep holding back all the time, especially against someone like Tottenham. As I said, they've only won one game at home all season. And at
take
the end
it
of the
to
day,
this team. You take it to them.
Go to them with no fear. Go to them that you want to win the game.
Exactly.
And if you get in front against them, I can tell you now, tomorrow night at White Hart Lane, their supporters are going to be on their back if they go 1-0 down.
They
are really going to go at them. And their players aren't going to be happy with that. And this is what you need to use. The elements are there to be used. Use them. And I feel that he will start, obviously, with them two holding players.
I know he will.
I hope and pray he doesn't, but I think he will.
Okay. And listen, honestly, against this Tottenham team, I think you're playing into their hands, Ben, if you do this. I really think that you are letting Thomas Frank dictate how this game's going to be played instead of you dictating how the match is going to be played. That's why my number one key to victory is really about Marco. And we're going to have to see. I will know an hour and 15 minutes before the match begins. You and I will know, and everyone watching and listening to this episode will know how the match is going to go. We will know.
Yep.
We will absolutely know. The decision by both managers on the starting 11 is going to dictate a lot of this match. Anyways, all right, my friend, let's end with our predictions. As I said earlier, I am actually feeling pretty good about this match, but I preface that I think Marco's decisions could change that when we get close to the game. But I think this is a match that is tailor-made for Fulham, not just to get a point, Ben, but to win. They should have won last year. They should have won there last year, okay? Honestly, they should have won there last year. They won at Craven Cottage. I want so badly for them to beat this team at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I want it badly. Give me your prediction. I'll give you mine.
1-0.
1-0. Okay.
Yeah. I think it'll be a very close game. And I think it'll be one of them sort of games where I hope and pray the referee doesn't cause an incident in the game. We have got Stuart Atwell as the referee, unfortunately. Okay. But I would say probably just a 1-0 would just be the end of it.
Okay. Wayne's going 3-1 to Fulham. I can't be that daring. Okay. I can't do that. But I will actually go 2-1 to Fulham. You're going 1-0. I'm going 2-1 to Fulham. And honestly, I feel pretty good about my prediction. Listen, they could very easily lose this match, and I will look back. Listen, if they lose the match and Marco does what you and I are talking about, what we want him to do, I can live with that. I can totally live with that. If he goes back to type and does what we think he's going to do and they lose, I'm going to kill him. I mean, kill him, with words. I don't mean, I think you know what I mean.
You're 100% right, because it's, again, with the Everton game, we all went into that game with a chance of thinking we're going to get something out of it. And he then plays the two holding midfielders. We fall on our sword completely. It was a total hash up of a game. And who was to blame? You can't blame anybody else but him, and that's where the fault lies. But obviously he will blame everybody else. But it's you got to blame yourself sometimes.
Right. And I just want to emphasize, I meant with words. I would go at him with. I'd be very put it to you this way: my commentary, I would really kill him with my commentary. That's what I meant. In
That's
case
right,
anyone,
yeah.
please don't read anything else. I meant with my commentary. Anyways, because again, listen, I'll say it one last time before we wrap up this show. As a manager, he's one of the best Fulham managers that I can remember. I still will always prefer Roy Hodgson. He's just my number one. But right behind him is João Point. Oh my God, I got João on the brain. Would be Marco Silva. So I just wish that he'd be more willing to change. And it's just not in his DNA. I just wish he would. Anyways.
Yeah.
Ben, fantastic show. I really hope you enjoyed it.
I did. I really did enjoy it. Thank you very much for having me.
Okay. Well, listen, I told you a half hour to 40 minutes. We've gone an hour.
Yeah. Well, there you go,
man. We've got an hour. We had a
Marco's
lot.
got a lot to listen to then.
Well, hopefully people enjoy what they had listened to. Like I said, if you're looking for the podcast version, it's going to be exclusive on the Patreon page, but you can certainly watch it back on YouTube, X, and on the Cottage Talk Facebook page. But listen, thank you so much for joining me. We do have to wrap this up. For Ben Lawrence, I'm Russ Goldman. Thank you as always for watching and listening to Cottage Talk.